TJ spoke to local deputies Tim Matthews and Roy Fisher, telling them everything she knew. She decided to stop by the hospital to check in on Stella. It had been several days since the accident, and her condition hadn't really changed. But as long as she was already in town, it wouldn't hurt to speak to Hunter personally about her prognosis. Ben had been understandably upset by the situation with Nolan, so TJ had dropped him off at Murphy's for a cold one while she visited her friend. "She looks so frail," TJ whispered to Hunter as they stood by Stella's bed. Stella had swerved to avoid contact with an oncoming vehicle which had slid on the ice and veered into her lane. She avoided the collision only to plummet down the steep embankment to her right, causing her car to roll 3 times before hitting a tree. Driving on narrow and winding mountain roads was always somewhat risky, but especially dangerous during a storm.
"Her injuries are very serious," Hunter confirmed. "She has several broken bones that will mend, and cuts and bruises that will heal. But the head injury isn't looking good. I've done everything I can, but I honestly can't say whether she'll wake up or not. I've called to consult with several specialists who have assured me that we're doing everything we can to help her fight her way back. But at this point, it's up to her."
Hunter squeezed TJ's shoulder as she lay her head against his arm. "When do you think you'll know?" TJ asked.
"It's hard to tell. She has swelling in her brain that could be causing her state of unconsciousness. We hope that once the swelling subsides, she'll wake up on her own. She's breathing on her own, which is a good sign. Her vitals are holding steady, and she isn't in any immediate danger. All we can do at this point is monitor the situation and wait. How are you holding up?"
"Honestly, not that great. I have Kai and the puppies at the resort, but Kai seems to know that something is up and is taken to pacing and panting when she isn't caring for her babies. I feel bad for her, so on top of stressing over Stella's recovery, I find myself stressing over Kai's anxiety and her disinclination to eat, especially since I know the nursing mom needs lots of nutrients. And then there are the puppies. Don't get me wrong, they're super cute, but they're at that destroy the house and pee on every flooring surface phase. It's too cold to keep them in the barn, and I can't keep them crated all day. So I set up a room with a plastic liner and tons of piddle papers, and I'm letting them out onto the covered patio area as much as possible. The rest of the time, I'm chasing them around with spot treatment. Then, to top it all off, the snowblower at the resort is broken, and we can't get parts up the hill due to the road closure. So Dad and I have been trying to keep the place dug out by hand while Grandpa watches the girls, who, by the way, are bouncing off the walls with unspent energy. Of course, now poor Grandpa is so devastated about what happened to Nolan that I'm not sure if he'll be able to continue to handle 2 hyper-grade schoolers with the sniffles who absolutely cannot go outside. Oh, and don't even get me started on..." TJ stopped speaking and laughed. "I guess you weren't really asking about all of that, were you?"
"Not really, but it's fine. You obviously needed a vent. It's been a tough week for everyone. I wish I could help, but to be honest, I've been swamped."
TJ wrapped her arm around Hunter's waist and let his warmth calm her. "I know. I'm sorry for the rant. I guess things have just been building up, and now that Nolan's dead, I just don't know how we're going to get through this. Who would do such a thing?"
"What exactly do Tim and Roy think happened?" Hunter asked.
"Based on the evidence they could find, it looked like someone knocked him out and then drug him back to the house where they deposited him in his car. Then they turned on the motor and asphyxiated him."
"Was the car still running when you arrived?" Hunter asked.
"No, but I could smell the exhaust. It appears that whoever killed Nolan used a hose to pump the exhaust directly into the car for maximum effect. They didn't find the hose on the property, but based on the timeline, it seemed clear that the exhaust was channeled into the vehicle. Before he left, the killer turned off the car and opened a window to air out the garage, but there was still the scent of exhaust in the air."
"Based on the fact that the murder was carried out in such a way as to be painless to Nolan, it seems like the killer knew him."
TJ frowned. "As odd as it sounds, you could be right. Grandpa was on the phone with Nolan when someone came to the door. He heard Nolan greet the person and then heard a struggle. So we're assuming Nolan invited his killer in."
"The guy must have acted quickly to accomplish all of that before you got there," Hunter hypothesized.
"Yeah. We think it was about 2 hours between the time Grandpa was speaking to Nolan and the time we found his body. Doc is doing an autopsy as we speak. Hopefully we'll know more when he's done." Doc, a.k.a. Stan Griffin, was a retired coroner who helped out the Paradise